Hello, Aubrey. How are you today?
Hello, Lindsay. We are talking about dating today, and I'm
Ah,
curious, do you think the dating scene has changed much since we were single?
I'm pretty sure it has.
It
Last time
really has.
last time I was single was like 8 years ago, I think.
Yeah, for me,
And
it
for
was
you?
21 years. But we
It's
got a great question about dating culture in the US.
yes.
And so I actually listened to a couple of dating podcasts, current dating
Oh,
podcasts, and
nice.
learned some of the newer vocabulary. My daughter is dating.
Ah,
She has a boyfriend now. So I talked to her
uh-huh.
a little bit to
Okay.
get a little more in the know
I
about
love
dating
that.
because it
See,
has changed a ton with dating apps, which weren't as common when we were dating.
right.
Now that's the way to do it. Like everybody's on the
Really
apps. Yeah.
interesting. I thought it was social media was like taking over dating apps, but maybe I'm wrong. But I haven't talked to anyone about this in a long time.
It is both
Yeah.
for sure. People are sliding into your DMs on
Uh-huh.
Instagram, especially, but
Mhm.
often they will meet on a dating app and then
Okay.
look that person up on Instagram and look at all
Oh.
the photos and then send them a DM on Instagram. So it often
Oh.
still starts with the dating apps.
Interesting. Okay, you've done some research for
I
this
have.
episode.
I
I love
researched.
it. All right. So this comes from a question, right? From
Yeah.
Gol Naz. Should I go ahead and read the question?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So here we go. Golnaz says, "Thank you, Allers English team. Hi, Lindsay, Michelle, Jessica, and Aubrey. I'm Goalie from, and I wanted to say I really appreciate the amazing work the Allers English team puts into this podcast. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I've learned so much from listening. And it has been both enjoyable and incredibly helpful for improving my English skills. Your approach makes learning fun and relatable. Love it.
I love that. That's the goal, right? So when we get this
Yeah.
feedback, yes, thank
It
you.
feels great. It means a
Yes, it
lot to
does.
us. It means the world to us, as we say.
Yes, exactly.
All right. I have a suggestion for future episodes. Would it be possible to create some content related to dating culture in the US? It would be great to learn about the cultural aspects as well as some useful idioms and vocabulary that are commonly used in dating contexts. I think it would be very helpful for listeners navigating life here. Thank you for all your hard work and keep up the fantastic job. Oh, so good,
Yeah,
Aubrey.
such a great question. And there are a ton of dating podcasts out there.
Yes.
Some really fun ones. One that I found is called You Up, which this is a big part of dating culture. Often there's less commitment right away. And
Ah.
so the You Up text is, sort of
Oh,
well
yeah.
known for
Yeah.
people who are in situationships. Maybe they're
Right.
not committed to just one person, but
Mhm.
they're texting each other to find out if they're still awake to meet up late night, maybe at a bar for drinks. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. Sure, that existed when we were single, but
Yeah.
there are things that are changing about dating culture in the US. I
Yes.
am very curious. I tried to kind of get updated, but this is probably, it, I don't know how different this is around the world
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there are probably some commonalities around the world and some differences
and some
depending
differences,
on culture and cultural differences, right?
right?
So, we have some really interesting vocabulary today. I feel like I
Yes.
haven't even heard the first one before.
A lot of these might be new to you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
If you
Mhm.
guys are dating in the US or if you've just moved to the US, you might not be familiar with these yet. So we're excited to share some of the newest trendy vocabulary around dating. So let's
Excellent.
dive into that first. And
Okay.
I'm sure each one will sort of bring up a conversation about what was this like when we were dating? How
Oh,
is
for
dating
sure.
culture changing?
Yeah, so the first one is breadcrumbing. And so I know the term breadcrumbs from, your
Hansel and
internet, your
Gretel?
well, yeah, certainly Hansel and Gretel. And then online, when you talk about building websites and things, kind of that people can find their way back to where they've been,
Yes.
right? But in dating, it's when you send occasional playful or flirtatious messages to keep someone interested, but without any plans to commit. Okay.
Yeah, so
Ooh.
it's interesting. This is sort of has a negative connotation
Mhm.
because that would be fine, of course, to send these messages if you think there's a chance for a relationship with this person. But it's
Right.
definitely this connotation of like someone was breadcrumbing me now,
Mhm.
and then later I find out they never had any plans to seriously date me. They knew there would not be a relationship.
Yes.
So this is
Yes.
sort of a very negative thing to do to someone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Kind of mean, right? Sort of, and
Yeah.
usually reflects on insecurity from the person who's doing it, who's doing the breadcrumbing, right?
Right. The
Uh,
way we would have said this when I was dating was leading someone on. Like,
oh yeah,
she's just
totally.
leading him on. And
Yeah.
that would be the same kind of thing. Messages flirting with someone that you are not planning on dating seriously.
Exactly. So again, another sample sentence. I think she's just breadcrumbing me, or he breadcrumbed me. We're using it in the past tense there for our
Mhm.
listeners. He breadcrumbed me for months. Ooh,
Right.
that's
So
not
this can be
good.
used as a verb or a noun, right? And that's what it
Hmm.
means. And often maybe it's not true, but if someone ends some kind of situationship,
Yeah.
ends some kind of relationship, and you find out maybe from their friends or from their lack of emotional connection, you
Hmm.
feel like they never intended to date you seriously, then you might be like,
Mm.
I feel like they were just breadcrumbing me.
Oh, yeah. And the next one, ghosting. There was actually just an article about ghosting in the New York Times over the weekend, which I did scroll through because it's a fascinating topic, Aubrey.
It
Ghosting,
is.
right?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Before text messages, before social apps, the only way to do this would be like if you're dating someone and you maybe moved to another
Right.
country and then just never
Hmm.
called them again and never said anything. I guess that would have been sort of ghosting, but it's definitely more common now that you can just block someone on with your phone
Well,
and never see them.
it almost feels like, though, ghosting in the past was just not following up and there was no way to follow up, right? I think maybe now there's more expectation to officially close out something. Well, let's define what it means, Aubrey, first. Let's
Yeah.
let's get
Okay.
on the
So
same page.
ghosting, right, is when
Mhm.
someone suddenly cuts off all communication without any explanation, typically in the context of a relationship. So,
Yeah.
right, once upon a time,
Yeah.
maybe you just stop calling each other, but
Right.
there was less of an expectation. Maybe you'd run into them in the grocery store, but it was very
Yeah.
unlikely.
Yeah,
Whereas
like
now you see their social media, you still see them online, but they're not messaging you anymore. It's more
right.
strange.
I haven't thought of it in that context, actually. I'm watching the show This Is Us. I'm going through all
Oh,
the
I love that
seasons
show.
because I
Oh.
somehow missed it when it came out. And so I'm thinking about when Jack and Rebecca were dating, it was the early 80s.
Right.
And I imagine if they had just gone out on a few dates and no one followed up, in today's context, that would be considered ghosting, but there was no way. You're not going to call and say, "Hey, I'm not going to call you again." Right?
Exactly. You just don't
You
call.
just don't call.
Right.
So
Yeah. Let's
ghosting
do a
kind of
couple.
has become a
Yeah.
thing with technology in a way, but I also think it's really mean.
Right. And I think why a lot of the reason it's more common now is because of the apps, because of social media,
Yeah.
people can be talking to multiple people at a time. And that kind of
Mhm.
means like,
Yeah.
flirting, texting, like
Yeah.
the prelude to a relationship. And then
Right.
if you have a lot of people you're messaging and then you start to get more serious about one,
Yeah.
what do you owe all of the rest of them? Do you message them
Mm.
and say, I don't think we're the match? Or do they
Yeah.
just never hear from you again? And that would be
Yes.
ghosting them.
Yes, very common word right now in our zeitgeist, right? It
Right.
was in the New York Times over the weekend. I mean, a whole episode, a whole article about why they interviewed people in their 20s, 30s, 40s and talked about why they ghosted their partner last time.
Right.
It was really kind of a
Interesting.
psychological deep dive. If our listeners are interested in psychology, really interesting.
That would be
Um,
really interesting. Definitely
yeah,
check it out.
yeah.
Let's do a couple just quick examples. Maybe, can you believe he ghosted me after we had been dating for 6 weeks? So this would
Mm,
be, wow, if you're actually going on dates, it's not just messaging and then you
yes,
never hear from them again. That would feel pretty
yes.
extreme.
Absolutely. I Here's another one. I am not a ghoster. I always let someone know if I think it's not a match. Yes.
And so here we're using it to describe ourselves and be like, I would never ghost anyone. I'm not a ghoster. That means I'm
Mhm.
always going to message them and let them know if it's not working out for me.
Love it. Very common phrase. Really important for dating right now in 2025, Aubrey. What
Yeah.
would be the next one?
All right. The next one is cuffing. And this
What
is
is
committing to
this?
one partner. It's
Okay.
derived from the word handcuffed. So you're cuffing yourself to someone. You have all of these situationships, you have all of these people you're talking to. And then if you define the relationship and decide to start dating just one person, it's called cuffing. And then we also have
Ah.
cuffing season. What is that, Lindsay?
Yes, I've heard this. The colder months of the year when people are more likely to want to be in a relationship. Yeah, I
Right. So
remember.
you go through the summer, you're just talking to all of
Mhm.
these people, and then it starts getting
Yeah.
cold.
I remember in my friend group in New York when I was living there, all of a sudden I looked around, all these people were breaking up around March, April, and I'm thinking, why? What's happening? The
Right? They go
weather's
through the
getting
summer, they're
warm.
dating lots of people,
Yeah.
and then they might have been in a relationship again by
Y-
October.
Yep. They want to be free, be out in the world, in New York. So, really interesting. So, let's do some samples.
Yeah, you might hear he acted like I was cuffing him when I asked where this is going. So this would be like if someone's like, I feel like one person is trying to make the relationship more serious, define it before someone else is ready.
And that's always awkward. That never works out, right? When
That's
one person
tricky.
feels like they're being cuffed or trying to nail down or something is another word I might use.
Exactly. Try to nail somebody down, try to
Yeah, yeah.
just to get someone to commit.
Yes, exactly. Here's another sample. I can tell it's cuffing season. I want someone to snuggle up with in front of a fire. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah,
human thing, right? But
totally.
yeah, you can see the patterns.
Yep, or you could say, "I can tell it's cuffing season. All of my friends are starting to get serious with their significant others."
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Next one I know for sure. And this is the thing we never want to end up in if we're
Yes.
around our love interest. And what is it, Aubrey?
The friend zone. So to get friend zoned, someone you're interested in romantically makes it clear that they only think of you as a friend.
Yeah.
That's
This is,
happened to all of us. If you're out there
yeah,
listening and you're in this situation, we have solidarity. We've all been
we
there.
feel, yeah. It's happened to everyone on the planet, I'm sure. She told me last night that I'm such a good friend. I think I'm officially friend zoned. Yeah.
Yeah, so we use it a verb that way. I'm friend zoned, or I keep getting
Yes.
put in the friend zone. It's used as a noun here. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm doing wrong.
Very common. So these are, four really, really common dating terms right now in 2025. I love it. Okay, Aubrey, we are back. Let's go into a little role play. This should be fun. Dating talk,
Yes.
right?
So we are not ourselves here. We are Flavia and
Mm-hmm.
Margot,
All
and
right.
we are discussing our friend Lily's dating life. I'll start us out.
Excellent. Okay.
I think Lily is breadcrumbing this guy. She doesn't seem interested at all.
Yeah, she probably needs to friend zone him if she knows it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, she's pretty bad at ghosting. She'll probably just block him one day and he'll never hear from her again.
Who knows though? Maybe we'll hit cuffing season and she'll decide to commit.
Nice.
Oh,
I
jeez.
love this. I'm like, we need to be talking about someone else. I feel
Yeah.
like this could come off as very negative. A lot of these do have this negative
Yeah.
connotation of leading someone on, of not being
Yeah.
respectful of someone else's feelings, but it
Right.
does happen.
Yep, this is how a lot of dating conversations sound, I suppose, right?
Right, I
Yeah.
suppose.
So, okay, so you said, I think Lily is breadcrumbing this guy. And it's interesting how we use that word as a verb. We conjugate it. He's breadcrumbing. She is breadcrumbing this guy.
Yeah, so it's
Interesting.
something she's currently doing. She's
Mm-hmm.
sending flirty texts, leading him
Mm-hmm.
on, but maybe telling me, I know this isn't going to work. I know this isn't going anywhere. And then
Yeah.
showing me the text she's sending. So that I'd be like,
Yes.
wow, you're
Yeah.
breadcrumbing this guy.
Interesting. And then what? Friend zone.
Yes, you said she probably needs to friend zone him if she knows it's not going anywhere. So we're just
Mm-hmm.
sort of seeing our friend not being serious about someone. And though no one wants to get friend zoned, that's a
No.
better option if you know there's no
Yes.
future.
For sure. And then you said she's pretty bad at ghosting, right? Meaning she doesn't have, well, how can you be good or bad at
This
ghosting? It's just kind of stopping the communication, right?
Yeah, I think what if I said this, she's pretty bad at ghosting, it means to me that she does it a lot, and I don't
Oh.
think it's a good thing to do,
Oh, I thought you
right?
meant she doesn't have a skill.
I can
She's not
see where you
skilled at
this is an
ghosting.
interesting language feature, a language
Mhm.
chunk where it kind of could mean either thing, right?
Mhm.
If I'm saying she's bad at ghosting, maybe I mean she doesn't do it often because it's a bad thing to do, right?
Oh, it
But
could mean a lot of things.
it
This.
could
Yeah.
mean a lot of things, so you'll have to listen to intonation, listen for context, but here I meant, like, she's bad at doing that to people, she's bad at ghosting people, she's done it a lot.
Yeah, so we could say something like, "Oh, she's always ghosting
She's
people," is
always
another thing
ghosting
we could
people
say.
would mean the same thing, yeah.
Okay, good. And then I said, who knows though? Maybe we'll hit cuffing season and she'll commit, right? She'll decide to commit.
right? The weather will get colder and she'll realize maybe I do like this person.
Yeah, excellent. Fantastic. So, Aubrey, this is part of a series, right? Let's hear about the
Yes.
series. Where is the next episode in this series going to be?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. Part 2 will be on the Business English podcast.
Hmm.
Should you talk about dating at work?
I
Because you
love it.
have vocabulary, you know a lot now about dating culture in the US, but
Hmm.
should you bring it up at work? To whom? In what context? So be sure to follow Business English if you're not, so you don't miss that episode.
That is going to be an incredibly important episode.
Yes.
Incredibly important. So, right now, what we'd like you to do, guys, is open your search bar wherever you're listening, type in business English and hit the follow button. That is the one thing we'd like you to do so you're ready for the next part of this series. What's the takeaway today,
Absolutely.
Aubrey? Yeah.
Well, dating culture changes constantly, and so does the language around dating. So
Hmm.
you can use today's, the newest trendy vocabulary around dating in the US.
Yes.
And yeah, come back to YouTube. Let us know, what is this like in your culture? Does this sound familiar or is it very
Hmm.
different? Do you use similar terms?
Yeah. And if this episode sparked any questions about dating and American culture or dating in English, we can make additional episodes on this topic. I know it's a popular topic for our audience. So, guys, go
Yeah.
ahead and send in that question to support@allersenglish.com. All right.
Yes, awesome. We love to get your questions. The more specific, the better.
All right. Good stuff, Aubrey. We'll see you next time. Can't wait for that part
Yes.
two. Sounds good.
Awesome.
All
See you
right.
next
You take
time.
care. Bye.